Hi there. So, Vedic or sidereal, which are not exactly the same, versus tropical, which is correct. So, first things first. Sidereal is basically the Vedic system minus all of the Vedic intelligence, just using the change in equinox. So it's like this. 2000 something years ago, when all astrologies were kind of less fragmented, the signs aligned with the constellations perfectly. So the nakshatras, or the lunar mansions in the Vedic system, lined up perfectly with Ashwini and Aries being like this. Now, after precessions of the equinoxes 2,000 some odd years later, there is a 23-degree difference. So, this has caused a big rift and a separation in two forms of thinking. The Western or the Greek-based Ptolemaic system versus the Vedic system. Now, this is what I have found to be my truth in my search for the truth of astrology. Ernst Wilhelm is the only person I've seen, and he's not the only one now, but he's kind of the progenitor, if you will, of the idea that we should be following the tropical system with the Vedic nakshatras. What does this mean? Basically that if you were born with the sun in, let's say, in degree 25 of Aries, you would fall into the nakshatra of Ashwini. And this is a more accurate representation of two things. One, the fact that tropical astrology and the elemental psychological balance in the zodiac in the tropical Western sense is based on the equinox. It's based on the spring, and it follows the timing of spring. It's not celestial. It's lined up with the constellations, yes, but it no longer does. Therefore, it's more misleading, and it's much more to do with sacred geometry in the way that from the time spring starts and winter and the solstices and equinoxes, and how it affects our psychology, that tropical astrology is more based on. And I've seen it to be more accurate in describing people. Because I've already seen several cases where one person would say, no, I am definitely this sign, and then I would look at the difference between their Vedic and tropical perspective, and they show and have this sensation of the energetic characteristics much more from the tropical signs. Because the tropical is related to the elements, the four elements, it's related to the cycles of the seasons, and it's much more closer to home. The Vedic thing, the nakshatras are very accurate and they have very, very successful predictions. However, now when they keep sticking to this adamant idea that no, Ashwini is at 0 Aries, and Aries has also moved, therefore Aries begins in April 15th and not March 21st. I don't find these statements to be psychologically correct. I don't see this. Now, I'm also a limited perception myself, so I could be wrong. I'm not saying what I've experienced is true 100% across the board. This is just my opinion. This is what I've seen. I'm not the only one who believes this, who sees like, nah, man, you're saying you're this, but you have the characteristics of this. For example, for me, like I'm a very Libra person, right? I'm a very Libra person. So when the Vedic thing and come to a Virgo, doesn't quite add up. Just doesn't quite add up. So there's many different things, and I've seen this with several people already, so this is just what I've seen as my personal opinion. Please do your own research and figure it out yourself. I'm letting you know how I've seen it. So going back to the main thing, what Ernst Wilhelm has done is essentially allowed us to look from the dual perspective, saying yes, we keep the astrological functions of the Western tropical system, however, we also look at the nakshatras. And from there, we can still implement the traditional Vedic prediction techniques and the various divisional charts, which is about 40, which is basically Vedic astrology is 90% more information than just a single rising sign chart, so to speak, in the Western sense. So there's a lot to be seen in the Vedic world, a lot, so much, it's almost too much. But the reality of the situation is that our sun signs and the way that the actual the signs, like the zodiac signs, line up is more related to the sacred geometry relating to the first point of spring, winter, summer, and fall. We're talking about the four directions, right? And this doesn't change because of the precession of the equinoxes. That's celestial. This is terrestrial. So what Ernst Wilhelm does is perfectly combine the celestial with the terrestrial. And this is exactly why I think he is one of the most profound and prominent astrologers alive today. Many of his students are also very, very advanced in their way of thinking. But I find it hard to listen to just a strict Vedic philosophy or just a strict Western, because the strict Vedic is missing a big chunk of the elemental psychological profile of the person and the sensation of the actual thing itself. And the Western system is just missing an absolute shit ton of information that the Vedic system has so expertly refined over thousands of years. Now, even in the purely Vedic perspective, calling Ashwini at Aries 0 degrees, they can still do prediction techniques. I'm not saying it's wrong, however, it's just again missing the actual feeling of the element in the people. So, this is why I choose to follow Ernst Wilhelm's way of looking at things. I still have a lot of research to do left on the Vedic part, but I know about my nakshatras and my signs. I have the link in the description where you can go to his site, Vault of the Heavens, and get your own birth chart made up. And from there, you can do your own research and learn. Ask me any questions you wish to. Ask him, because he knows a lot more than I do, but I'm just going to help point in the right direction. So, thank you very much again for listening. Subscribe to hear more, and enjoy living in sacred time.